Some photographers really make it hard for themselves to succeed and continuously put roadblocks in front of their progress throughout their career. So in this video, I want to go over some of the things that I think you're doing that might be hindering your progress and might be making you not achieve those goals that you're setting out to achieve. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Sergio and I'm a commercial photographer here in Victoria, BC. I've been shooting a little over 10 years, almost 12 years now at this point, but that does mean that I have been doing 12 years worth of mistakes, and that means 12 years worth of learning from those mistakes. Nothing in this job comes easy. It's hard when there's no rubric, there's no rule book, there's no, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. So in this video, I kind of want to outline all of these things here that I've set out. And we're going to go over how each of those things really affects your workflow and your progress in this career. You could have been doing this for 30 years and still be an amateur. You could be doing this for 6 months and be a pro. Being an amateur to me is a thought process, and that thought process starts with being a hotshot. If you think that people give a shit about what it is that you're doing in order to expose your image or take your photo or what lens you're using or what 3-point lighting setup you're using, you're wrong. There's nobody on the client side that cares about what you're doing and how you're doing it and how much harder it is to do what it is that you're doing instead of doing it a different way or whatever. Oh, what I'm doing is so much more complicated than this because blah, 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 blah. Literally nobody cares. Maybe other photographers, maybe your friends, but they actually don't really care. Stop being a hotshot. All we do is take pictures for a living. We are fortunate to be in this position, having a hobby for a living. So just take a step back, enjoy the process, enjoy the progress that you're currently making, and know that every day is one foot in front of the next. There is no such thing as making it in photography, and there's no like, oh, now I've hit this milestone, I'll forever be a successful photographer. It's a constant process. It's something that happens every day. We're always doing this. You're always enjoying this process, so focus on that. Don't be a hotshot. Literally nobody cares, because if you are too cool for school, they're going to hire someone else. It's going to make you look like a cheap amateur, and they'll be like, all right, let's just work with someone that makes me feel better. It has nothing to do with the quality of your images or how much better you are of a photographer than someone else. If you're a pain to work with, you're not going to get the job, at least not the second or third time. Next, in a slightly similar vein, I would say that expecting clients to know what it is that you're thinking is an amateur move. It's something that's hindering your progress because you want to be able to communicate clearly what it is you got on your mind. If a client comes to you and is like, hey, we need to take this picture here, and in your mind you're like, well, that's not going to work because of the lighting that's coming in that way or whatever reason, you have to explain those things. You have to tell your client, oh, by the way, it would be much better if we do it this way and that way and this way, using your professional expertise in order to change their mind. If you just go with like, yeah, totally, I can people please, and yeah, we can do this, oh, we can totally do this, we can totally do this, and then you under-deliver, that's on you. It's even though you might have known in your head that it wasn't going to work out, it's on you to explain to the clients why it's not going to work out and try to pivot and use that professional guidance in order to do so. You're responsible for the end result, and if the end result doesn't look the way that they wanted it to, that's on you, or on me, or on whatever. And in order to make them happy, and in order to make your clients happy in any given situation, you have to communicate clearly. You have to assume that they don't know what's going on in your mind and just explain to them as clearly as possible in layman's terms and not in some crazy like ISO, I don't know what other words sound technical to non-photography people, but don't use technical words. Use just like brightness and saturation, and use things that everybody knows, things that are very commonplace. Goodness. Sorry, I'm recording these on the day where the guys upstairs are actually here today. I usually don't, and it's super loud, so I'm sorry if you're hearing some rumblings. People know brightness. They know moody. They know contrast. They know, why is this so dark? Why is this too bright? They don't know that the brightness is related to how dark the rest of it is around it, and there's a lot that goes on in an image, and there's too much for me to just explain to you all of the little nuances and the little situations you're going to find yourself in. But just communicate. Communicate clearly what it is that's on your mind, and it's going to make you a more reputable photographer to work with, because you're someone who aligns the expectations with reality, and if they have a certain idea of what their end result is going to be like, and you can match that, then that's it. They don't care how much technically harder or how many extra pieces of gear you needed to get or how this picture costed you $15,000 worth of equipment to take. Literally nobody cares. They just want a nice end result. And if they can have a nice end result and you're not a pain to be with, you're going to keep getting those jobs. you're the type of photographer to slide in my DMs or talk to every single creative that you meet and you're like, what lens was that? Ooh, I like the sharpness on that one. Ooh, what camera did you shoot that with? Ooh, how many lights did you use in this setup? You're annoying, and nobody likes that. To a certain extent, I understand the desire, the want. When I think about it from a skater's perspective, I'm also just looking at shoes. I look at the skater's shoes, and I'm like, oh, if he can land that in those shoes, and if I buy those shoes, I should be able to land that as well. That mentality is normal. I get it. But it's annoying from a professional's point of view, and it sounds very amateurish when you come up to a professional and you're like, hey, what lens is that? The lens, the camera, the lights, the gear never matters in the final result. I know I'm speaking in black and whites, and I guess sometimes it does matter a little bit. Like, don't get too mad at me in the comments. But it's the story and it's what you're taking a picture of that's so much more important than how you took it. If you have to explain to people how you took your image is not better. If you have to tell people that it was shot on film, it doesn't make the image better. If you have to tell people that you shot it on some crazy technical camera, it does not make the image better. What makes your image better is what's in front of the lens and what you're taking a picture of and how you're telling its story. It's not about all of the technical little things. I know I tell you guys this a lot, but I really want to hammer that point in of focusing on how the images make the clients feel is going to be much more important than how technically perfect the certain highlight fall off is. If you're sliding into someone's DMs, ask them questions about their business. Ask them questions about how it is that they got that job. Talk about a little bit of the outside around the photography and not just the techniques of the photography. You should be building your own techniques. You should be practicing. You should be in your environment, studio, living room, outside of nature. I don't care where it is that you are. You should be constantly shooting and practicing and understanding these little nuances for yourself. Because even if I tell you what lens I shot that on, what aperture I used, it will not let you retake the same shot. It just won't. You can use all of the same equipment, you can use all of the same techniques, you still won't be able to take the same shot because that same shot elicited a feeling between me and my client, and that's what you're trying to get. You're not trying to, if you're just trying to copy what I did with my client, it's not going to help your client. It's not going to help your situation. You need to find that personal connection with your situation, with your clients that help you actually achieve those goals, that help you move forward in your career and progress as a photographer. You're trying to please your clients. That's what helps you grow as a photographer, because those clients are going to tell their friends, they're going to tell their friends of friends, and one of their friends is going to end up booking with you for something. And it's not about pleasing everybody, but it's being the exact right choice for those select few. By focusing on my clients and by focusing on the story and the mood of my images instead of the techniques of them, that's how I've done it. And if you're asking me about the techniques, the why was this shot on an R8? Can I shoot it on a full frame, or can I shoot it on a crop body? Or those little questions do nothing but feed your curiosity. They will do nothing for your actual progress in this photography game. Next up, as a photographer, if you're so worried about the gear, that means you're probably thinking that your editing is a big part of your style. Every edit that we do is mimicking photography. Maybe there's some exceptions in there, but when you're adding a different highlight on your product, you could have shot that differently. When you're adding a shadows on, you're clipping something out and you're adding a different shadow that's a little bit harder than the one that you created, you could have done that in camera. So all of those little things that you're learning and that you're trying to do in editing, you could have done them in camera. If you want to have teal shadows and orange highlights, do it with gels. You don't have to rely on always trying to select out masses. Oh, I can do it in post. I can do it in this. I can do that's fine. Oh, once I put my teal sky in there, then it's my shot. You don't need to do any of that. That isn't what's creating the mood and the vibe of your final image. I know there's a lot that gets created in editing. I get that. There's a huge difference between a raw file and a completed image. I'm not saying there isn't one. But the final image is more than just what happens in Capture One or in Lightroom or whatever, or in GIMP. Your style is created the moment you start thinking about the shoot. Your style is created when you wake up in the morning. Who you are as a person influences your style. Who you are throughout the day, throughout your life, influences every single photo you're going to take further on, whether you know about it or not. And harnessing that, tapping into that is what's going to make you a really good, successful professional photographer, because you'll be able to just rely on yourself and not on the fancy gear, not on being in a really good environment, not on you. You're the photographer. You're the person taking the images, not the gear, not the surroundings. It's you. One of the things that's probably gotten in your way, it's gotten in my way, it's something that I constantly try to think myself out of, is waiting to get that next piece of gear or waiting to land that next job in order to promote your portfolio and in order to promote your services. Use what you got, push it, put it out there, and someone will work with you. You don't need to wait till you get the 1.2 version of that lens to shoot that new photo so that you can promote it and tell people how good you are because of that one piece of gear. There's so much more that takes your image, and by putting yourself out there, how many jobs have I gotten by just being the physically closest person to whoever needed a photo shoot? Show up to one of my Uber Eats jobs, and the restaurant owner is like, oh, you're the photographer. Oh, you got all this equipment. Can you do this, that, and the other for me as well? Can you take over this? Can you do, oh, I have 3 other restaurants. Do you want to work with blah, 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 blah? Just by being present and being there. They don't care that I have an R8 or an R5 or a whatever other 5D Mark III. They don't care. They just saw that, oh yeah, you're the guy with the photographer. You can figure it out. You're the camera guy. You figure it out. You do your thing. And I know that doesn't exist at every single level, and there's definitely an elite level of photography where this doesn't really kind of come into play. But until you get there, that's how I've gotten the vast majority of my jobs. It's literally just word of mouth and people knowing who I am. The more people know who you are, the more they will want to work with you. The more people have to see what it is that you do, how you do it, like how often you're working. You have to come off as a working, active problem solver for all of the businesses that you want to work with. And it happens within whatever niche that you're working with, whether it's concerts or portraits, or for me, it's food and advertising. The realm in which you want to be seen has to see you. They have to know who you are. They have to just be aware, whether it's the best shot of your career or just something that gets you by. You just have to be able to push yourself physically, push yourself digitally as much as possible in order to be seen, in order to be booked by these people. They won't know who you are. They don't care about hiring you. They have a idea in mind. They're like, oh, I need to fill up my social media because it's lacking. And then they'll physically look around them and be like, who do I know? Oh, my cousin. Oh, my this. Oh, my that. You have to be the physically closest person. I'm not saying that right. You have to be the closest physical person. No, you have to be the closest person physically to all of these owners, all these business owners, so that they think of you when they need images. Promote what you got, then use that to make more, and then promote it again. There's no limit to how much you can push yourself. There's no limit to who knows what it is that you can do. Just keep doing it, keep pushing it, keep understanding that this photography game is just putting one foot in front of the next. I'm lucky that I've been doing this for 12 years. If you've been doing it for 3, just keep going. We've all been there. We've all been at a point where we're like, man, am I going in the right direction? Do I even know what it is I'm doing? Was that the right move? Should I have done that? That's part of the game. If you're enjoying the process of photography, you're doing a good job. If you're enjoying the fact of learning, if you care, if you are passionate about the craft, you're going to put the work in learning and getting better at it. And that's what you need to focus on, and not on, I need my day rate to be at least $2,500 or else I'm not going to make enough money this month and blah, 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 blah. That's not the game. Focus on being busy. Busy means money. But focus on being busy first. And I think that's what's really going to help you become a much more professional, much more booked, much more busy photographer. Oh, and one last thing. Try not to one-up everybody who's talking to you. I don't know why photographers do this, but it's like every time you're sharing or someone shares something about themselves or about their photography, photographers always seem the need to be like, oh yeah, but I did a bigger campaign once. Oh, I shot with an even more wide open lens once. Oh, I shot with a 1200 watt light once. Oh, I did a phase 1 shoot once. Oh, I did a, like, shut up. Nobody cares. Anyway, I hope you guys like this video. Maybe subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in a couple days. Later.